Hello, friends. Welcome to Critical Moves. Lula free stopped being a chant and now is a reality since November the 8th. Why was he able to leave the jail, the leader of the workers' union? What were the social actions that pushed this forward? What is up next, both in the judicial and political front? This is what we're going to be analyzing today. Let's begin. The Supreme Federal Court voted 6-5 that those accused wait in jail or not. The vote was given by the president of the Supreme Court, who said that the Constitution did not say that somebody was guilty until the final sentence be passed. So, until all of the instances be carried out. And the leader, and this decision benefits many people that are being accused. I did not think that today I could be here speaking with men and women who for 580 days were here. And every day they used to shout, "Good morning, Lula. Good afternoon, Lula. Good night, Lula." With any concern regards to if it was hot, or if it was cold. You were the nurture of democracy that I needed to resist. To confront all of that rot in the institution. They worked to criminalize the right and criminalize Lula. I wanted to know that the police made a fraudulent investigation against me. Moro, all of them have to know that they not imprison a man. They tried to kill an ideology, an idea. And ideas you can never kill. He's going to lead this country. I'm very happy by knowing that the president is with the people. I'm very happy. It's probably the major figure of representation that we have in the country. This is for everything that he represents, the policies that he poses, and that are all dedicated to the poor people. Now, who is Lula? Why does his figure transcend? Why was it able to reach so many people beyond the frontier of Brazil? Let's take a look. Luis Ignacio Lula da Silva was born on October 27 of 1945 in Pernambuco, the northeast of Brazil. When he was 8 years old, he was in Sao Paulo looking for jobs. After that, his mom was a single woman, had to decide to go more than 2,000 kilometers to leave the scarce area where they lived. Once in Guarujá, after his first experience of work in the streets, he became a metal worker when he was just 14 years old. He then ignored that this was going to be the path to a social struggle. Lula, who was already a militant of the Communist Party, and he suffered malattention in the health system, and he lost his wife. He led the first strikes against the dictatorship that began in 1965. His will took him to jail for 31 years, and afterwards he was back in the union work. He began being a politician by leading the workers' union and he was the spokesperson of the working class. This made him be the most voted congressman in 1986. He was part of the Constitution, and he ensured having the social rights like medical license, strikes, reducing the work week from 48 to 44 work hours. His constant struggle against the unjust privatizations, plus 3 campaigns as a president candidate, make him the first president of the Workers' Union, elected on November 27 in 2002, re-elected in 2006. Both his periods have the mark of the 30 million Brazilian that he took out of poverty. He implemented a better distribution of richness. He generated work, he increased the minimum wage, he made infrastructure, sanitation, and afterwards he also worked in political formation, both nationally and internationally. He was a candidate of the Nobel Peace Prize, and then he was being pursued by the right. And then he was in jail, he was imprisoned unfairly until last Friday.
Le propongo ahora hacer un mapeo de una acción global que mucho incidió en la libertad del expresidente.
Let's go to see everything that happened while he was detained. Lula Free, this was a campaign that was worldwide. The campaign of solidarity in defense of Lula, also known as Lula Libre movement. This was born in 2018 to confront the unfair incarceration. The movement began in Curitiba, the state of Paraná, where he was incarcerated. But it spread fast and to 13 countries: Ecuador, Colombia, Costa Rica, Nicaragua, Argentina, Honduras, Mexico, Venezuela, Uruguay, Dominican Republic, Salvador, Paraguay, and Guatemala. For many days, the people were sitting outside the police of Curitiba to confront, along with Lula, all of the misbehavior of the judicial system. What they asked was a fair trial for Lula and free elections and the right of Brazilians to elect the people who they want. What they did was they gathered many signatures and a candidacy for the Nobel Peace Prize, along with making solidarity campaigns like the ones that he already began. Let's go to digital websites of different parts of the world. November 11, we see Lula Free. The political future of Lula is one of the topics they're speaking of. Although he's free, he cannot set himself as a candidate. This according to the Constitution that he himself had helped to write. However, if the Supreme Court maintains the argument that the defense that Judge Moro was partial, then of course his case would go back to first instance, and he could run for the presidency of 2022. Let me suggest this article. Lula recovered his citizenship just like everybody else. Written by Manuel Cavallo, it said, between the passion and the reason, it's important to say what Carlos de Mello said about the judicial decision that led to his liberation. And the judge said that the Supreme Court cannot judge on the economic, social, or state or functional state of a person. He also said that we always have to uphold the presumption of innocence until the last level of the justice. The Supreme Court decided what only the Constitution says, which is
y se revirtió en 2016 para promover el juicio político de Lula. Y ahora ha decidido, de esta
and
manera,
has now
porque se ha
decided
dedicado a apreciar los principios
that
generales
they've
y
tried
no
to.
un caso particular, como debería haber hecho
Now
en
they're trying to
2018.
see Lula's
Lula
case
no ha sido
particularly and not
absuelto
as a
y
whole.
puede que
Lula
tenga
has
que
not
regresar
been
a la cárcel,
declared innocent,
pero
and he might
habrá
have to
tenido
go back
oportunidad de
to jail.
agotar todos
But
los
he
recursos
will
de
have the
defensa y
opportunity
podrá
to
usar la
use
piel
all
que
of
todos los
his
ciudadanos tienen
strategies
derecho a
of
usar.
defense.
No lo que siniestros personajes como Sergio Moro quieren imponer, sino lo que está escrito en la Constitución.
Now he will have a chance to fight for his freedom.
Actualizamos información.
Let's update information. Let's go to Rio de Janeiro with Andre Veira. He's our correspondent there.
Olá, sim, saludos a ti, saludos
Hi,
à audiência aqui do
greetings to
Jugada
everybody
Crítica,
of Jugada
efetivamente,
Crítica.
dia histórico
This is a
foi
historical
viernes
day
passado, com a liberação
on
de
Friday
Lula da Silva,
when
luego de
Lula was
580
liberated
dias
after
de cárcel.
580 days in
Recordemos
jail.
todo este
Let's
processo,
recall the whole
Lula da
process
Silva saiu
where
em
Lula
2011 de seu governo, de seus dois governos,
stepped
com
down from his
87% de
presidency in
aprovação.
2011
Desde
with
aí,
a high
então,
level
a
of
eleição
approval.
de Dilma Rousseff, sucessora de Lula da
And then there
Silva,
was a successor
lá
of
de
Dilma
Brasil,
Rousseff.
começou
With this, the
plano
right
golpista
wing
que
began
culminou justamente com aquele golpe em
a process
2016.
that
Esto
led to the
porque
coup.
intentaram
They
sempre,
tried everything
não permitir el avance
and not
del
to
gobierno de Dilma Rousseff,
not to
también
allow
crear,
the
foi
advance
criado
of the
incluso
government
el
of
propio
Dilma.
partido aliado, el propio partido que estaba nessa coalición de Dilma Rousseff, que
There
foi
was
el
even a
PMDB. El PMDB empezó todo este plan golpista por medio de Eduardo Cunha, quien era presidente de
There
la
was a
Cámara de
political
los
party
Diputados,
who
que
pressed
aceptó
for
y
this
cedido la solicitud
entirely,
de impeachment
and they
contra
tried,
Dilma
and
Rousseff, y
what this party
desde
did
antes
was
también
accept
ya
the
estaba
petition for
haciendo
impeachment
una
of
oposición
Dilma Rousseff,
en el
and
Congreso.
even
O sea, que
before he
todo-
was in
todos,
opposition. So
Eduardo Cunha,
everything,
el PMDB y también la prensa,
the press,
orquestaron este
everything
plan
orchestrated
golpista
this
contra
plan
Dilma Rousseff,
against
y
Dilma,
que vino junto, en
and that
conjunto
came
con la
along
Operación Lava Jato,
with
una operación que
Lava
ahora más
Jato
que
operation
nunca
that
se sabe
now
que
more
fue
than
una
ever
operación
is
no
known that
judicial,
was not a
pero sino
police
una
operation,
operación política,
but
una
was a
operación
political operation,
mediática, una
a
operación
media
justamente
operation.
para,
And it was
retirar el
just
apoyo de Dilma
directed
Rousseff, el Partido de
to
los Trabajadores, para
make Dilma
criminalizar
Rousseff
la izquierda
lose
aquí
all of her
en Brasil.
support.
Mientras tanto, esta misma operación
Meanwhile,
no
the same
ha
operation
investigado otras personas del clan de los
did not
jefes de la
investigate
derecha
any
que no
other
avanzaron
members
las
of
investigaciones
this
en contra
group that
de
was
esas
accused
personas.
of this
Así que
corruption
Lula,
plan.
luego de
So
todo
Lula,
este-
after
todo este problema que
all of this
pasó con
problem
Dilma
that he
Rousseff,
passed with Dilma
con el,
Rousseff,
impeachment de Dilma
with
Rousseff,
the
ese
impeachment
golpe
of Dilma,
contra Dilma, también ahí se
and this
emprendió
coup
toda
against
una
Dilma,
casada contra,
then there was
Lula da Silva
there
para
was a
que
hunting
no
process
fuera
against
permitido ser,
Lula, so he
candidato
could
a las
not be
elecciones, porque, según las
a
encuestas de las
candidate for
elecciones
the
del año
elections,
2018,
because let's
Lula
not
lideraba
forget
todas
that
las
he was
encuestas,
leading
por
all of the
arriba de
polls,
Jair Bolsonaro.
even
Y
above
justamente
Jair
el
Bolsonaro.
juez,
And the
Sergio Moro,
judge,
entonces
Sergio
juez,
Moro,
determinó la prisión de Lula da
determined the
Silva,
prison of
y
Lula da
este
Silva.
año, 1 de enero,
And this
este
year,
mismo
January
juez,
1st, the
Sergio
same
Moro,
judge,
se
Sergio
tornó
Moro,
el ministro de
began a
Justicia
minister
de
of
Jair
justice
Bolsonaro.
of Jair
Pero ahora, con la
Bolsonaro.
liberación
But
de Lula
now,
da
with the
Silva, surge un
liberation
nuevo
of
escenario,
Lula, there's
no
a new
solamente aquí en
scenario,
Brasil, pero en
not only in
Latinoamérica, que en este
Brazil,
momento
but
vive
in Latin
ese
America
golpe de
itself.
Bolivia. Lula da Silva es uno de
Lula
los
da
más
Silva
grandes líderes
is
de
one of the
esta,
greatest
de esta
leaders
región, y por
of this
supuesto
region, and of
emprenderá
course
ahora
will
su
start
recorrido por Brasil para estar hablando con las
will
personas,
start
fortaleciendo la
going
oposición.
around
Lula ahora es, sin duda,
all
sin
of
lugar a
Brazil,
dudas, el
strengthening his
principal
movement.
nombre de la
And this is
oposición
the,
aquí en este
of
país.
course,
Ya
this
lo
is the
era
biggest
Lula
name of the
Castro, pero
opposition.
ahora
It was
libre
even
Lula
before, but
hará
now
un
Lula
recorrido
that's
por
free,
Brasil y
he
sí,
will
está
travel
dispuesto
all
a
around
disputar
Brazil,
una
and
vez
he
las
is willing to
elecciones.
dispute
Recordemos
the
que
elections
con
once
esta
again.
decisión, con la
With
liberación
this
de Lula da
decision
Silva,
of the
Lula continúa sin
liberation,
sus
Lula
derechos políticos. Es por eso que
doesn't
está
have
en
his
la Suprema Corte
his
exigiendo el juicio de
political
habeas
rights.
corpus que pide
That's
la
why he's
suspensión
demanding
del
in
juez
habeas
Sergio Moro
corpus,
y la
demanding the
suspensión,
suspension
la
of
anulación de todo este
Sergio
proceso
Moro as a
jurídico que en
judge,
verdad era
and to
político, que
suspend all
denunciaban,
of this
como
process that was
denuncian los
basically
juristas, de que
political.
Brasil es un proceso político y no judicial contra Lula da Silva, y por eso que Lula pide la anulación de
That's why
este
Lula is
proceso
demanding
y
the
sus derechos
annulation
políticos, sus
of
derechos
this
políticos sean
process, and that
garantizados
his political
otra vez.
rights be
Para el
guaranteed
próximo
once
domingo
again.
se espera un
For
gran
next Sunday,
encuentro
there
de
will
Lula
be
da
a
Silva
big
en su región,
gathering
en su
in
región
his
natal,
region,
que es el noreste de Brasil,
which
en
is
un
the
festival
northeast
ahí
of Brazil.
justamente
There
en
will be a
Pernambuco, donde
festival in
nació Lula da Silva,
Pernambuco, just
un
where he was
festival
born.
que es Lula Libre,
This is the festival will be called Lula Libre, Lula Free. And the intention is to talk with the people after his liberation. And this is going to be a very important forum to relaunch his candidacy and to start his campaign all around the country. Thank you very much, André Vieira, for his correspondent work. Let's go to our first pause, and then, as always, we have a question posed on internet through which you can interact with us. The question today is, after the liberation of Lula, what is the route for a better Brazil? Please express your opinion. Let's go to a pause. We'll be right back. Today, we think that is a great step for democracy. We believe that the sentence is unfair and anti-democratic. So today we see people happy on the streets, believing that we still have some hope. We're trying to launch Lula as a candidate in 2022, so Brazil will grow again to improve the economy and to get rid of this corrupt government. Let's make a small timeline of the Lula case. The judicial system began on March 4, 2016, whereby when the then judge Sergio Moro asked him to declare because of money laundering and corruption. The case was called Lava Jato. He was accused of receiving $1 million on behalf of OAS, who allegedly he had spent in an apartment. For this, on July of 2017, he condemned the president to 9 years and 7 months of prison. In 2018, after Moro had ordered his detention, Moro turned him in and began his sentencing. On August 15, the Workers' Party defied justice and registered his candidacy. However, on the 31st of that month, the Electoral Committee annulled that candidacy. Then Jair Bolsonaro reached the presidency of Brazil. On March 1st of 2019, the justice allows that the president leaves the prison and to go to the cemetery to see his grandson. Then it has been declared that a person who is still in process cannot be imprisoned, and now he can stand trial as a free man. And now what they're trying to do is to set himself as a candidate for next year, for 2022. Having made this background, let's go with the analysis. We have Marina Alzada. She's a doctor in political science. And the director of Opera Mundi. Marina, can you please tell us what has been the first vision after Lula is finally free? Do you hear us, Marina? Yes, I hear you. Well, my first impression of liberation of Lula, we can say is that the right is totally intimidated. And there has been a great uproar on the progressive sector because Lula has a way of speaking to the masses. And what he has done is to speak of the main topics of the agenda. And he describes about the progressive style. Thank you, Marina. Please stay with us. We're going to talk to you after some minutes. And I want to go to Breno.
Estábamos dialogando con usted
We
justamente en
were
el momento que se dio, Breno, usted lo recordará, esa liberación de Lula. Pasado el fin de semana,
after the
¿cómo va
weekend,
sintiendo
how
el
do
momento?
how do you feel this moment?
Mira, primero, antes de todo, buenas tardes a
Well,
todos que nos
afternoon
escuchan
with
por
everybody
Telesur.
who's listening us to in
Hubo un
Telesur.
cambio en la
Well,
situación
there was a
política del
change in the
país
political situation of the
en
country
pocas horas,
in a couple of
porque con la
hours,
liberación de
because with
Lula,
the
la
liberation of Lula,
izquierda, las fuerzas
the
de
left
progresistas
wing
en
and the
Brasil pasaron a
progressive
tener
forces
un liderazgo natural y
began to
libre en
recover their
condiciones de
natural
exponer su
leadership,
opinión, en condiciones de
and they were able
reverberar
to
sus críticas al gobierno.
present their opinion
en condiciones de establecer un otro ritmo de movilización
and establish
del
a
pueblo
liberty
que
of
está en la
vote.
oposición contra Jair Bolsonaro. Lula ya es, en este momento, uno de los dos grandes protagonistas
And
de la
he is
izquierda
one of the
brasileña. El otro, evidentemente, es el mismo Bolsonaro. Entonces, el
Let's
país
not forget that he
se ha
was one of the main
encontrado
candidates for these elections. He was one of them, and the first one, and the next one was Bolsonaro.
entre el bolsonarismo, el fascismo, el neofascismo y la izquierda, representada fundamentalmente por Lula. La izquierda en los
The
últimos
right
meses,
wing
especialmente
in the
después de la
last
derrota
episodes.
electoral el año pasado, había se quedado un poco a margen.
Of course, yesterday they were at the margin of all of what was happening.
Era más bien con sectores
Externos al bloque conservador, más bien compartidos a la centro derecha, que
And there was,
digamos, aunque tuvieran el mismo programa económico,
even if they
ellos,
had the
gobierno
same
liberal, tenían
economic problem,
como gobierno, a sus atropellos políticos, pero ahora ese cuadro político se ha desplazado a la izquierda, con, digamos, el PT y sus aliados,
the PT and their allies with very strongly. And this is due to the liberation of Lula.
Igual invito, Breno, que se
Well,
mantenga
let
con
me
nosotros unos
invite,
minutos más. Vuelvo con
I want you
Marina.
to stay for a couple of
Marina,
minutes more. Marina,
retirándonos,
let's
un
speak
momento
about
al tema judicial.
let's speak about the
Es esta
judicial
liberación de
system.
Lula tras la
The
decisión
liberation of
del
Lula,
la demostración
the demonstration
de que no toda
that
la justicia o el
not all of the
aparato
justice
judicial
or
de
the
Brasil
justice
está
apparatus
tan viciado como se pensaba. ¿Concuerda conmigo?
is not so contaminated as we had thought. Well, Brazil is in a political war, and the judicial system in the midst of all of this. But of course, if the leadership of this group is working in his favor, so there's a prison is just after the final sentencing. Before that, it's just there's a preventive prison, just as if somebody is going to evade the process or he's a person that of danger. But this is not the case. So we cannot affirm this. He is in dispute like every other sector, but at this moment, the organizations of civil society, the defenders of human rights, all of them are supporting Lula. So do you think, Marina, that beyond all of the process that the Brazilian justice has been operating, maybe there could be the liberation of thousands of people that are being processed in the second instance?
La liberación de Lula fue la voz del pueblo brasileño y las distintas voces que se escucharon alrededor del mundo como parte de la campaña Lula Libre.
Well, once again, I don't think there's an easy answer. There are many factors. Lava Jato operation has a very bad name in Brazil due to what the Intercept magazine has revealed.
Lo comprometimento político de los principales actores de la operación. Su viés político de derecha. Ese es punto.
What they wanted to do is to impose the right wing.
Ha implicado a ser desgastado con la cúpula del Poder Judiciário. Se ha comprobado que han intentado amenazar.
It has been proven that the right wing has tried to threaten some authorities. The other reason is that the judges have a bad name now.
Está involucrado, es sospecho de estar involucrado en la muerte de la vereadora Marielle Franco.
And now we also know that there are grave accusations against government authorities of things like assassination. So, of course, they have very aggressive language that nobody accepts anymore. His acceptance rates are very, very low. He's very unpopular. And this is another factor. And of course, he has... it was awful to have all of these protesters at his door.
Gracias, Marina.
Thank you, Marina. Breno, taking part of what Marina has said, he says that Lula has become the main leader of the right in Brazil. I recall that when this moment was coming up in the past November, you said the speech that Lula makes is more to the left. It is more compromised with the forces of the left. What elements of the speech could you highlight today? Well, fundamentally, Lula, in his Saturday speech, is that the only alternative against Bolsonaro is the left. Only the left will have conditions, political conditions, social conditions, to offer a change in the country. There's another element that goes beyond just offering this transition, which is that Lula called on the people. And what he wanted is more force, more strength in the social mobilization to defeat the Bolsonaro government. And with these two concepts that Lula said in his speech, apparently what they're asking is to have something big, and of course what they're going to propose is to impose a new bet and to use now, with this programmatic construction, do you think that we can say that in this speech of Lula, after being freed in Curitiba, do you think that we can see that this is a government program? He said that he was going to travel many regions of Brazil from now on. Of course, this is part of his strategy and political mobilization. This begins next week. Lula will be in Recife, which is a main part of Pernambuco. And this is where there is an electoral base that's totally important. And then they will be tripping the country. And at that moment, they're trying to push forward a march of the progressive forces So the progressive forces will occupy the streets. This means that they will have to be organized and that they're a political force that will combat Bolsonaro. And this combat against Bolsonaro is totally fundamental. Thank you very much, Breno. I don't want to stop this interview without asking Marina. You spoke of a multiplicity of factors. What is with this strategy, do you think Lula will have a chance to take back the presidency? Well, it's impossible to say now. This is a very large topic. And now, like Breno says, the Senate has been totally disorganized. And so the time to dialogue directly with the people about the ongoing economic plan is already ended. They can be thought of the salvation for the country. The first thing Lula has spoken about is the humiliating situation in which many people are working. But now it's a reality. And we know that the right will give more force, will give a bigger effort. Thank you, Marina. Thank you very much for both of you. So let's go to a second pause in our critical moves before we go to the other set. Once again, let me encourage you to participate in our digital website.
Denos su criterio sobre la situación que está atravesando hoy el gigante suramericano. Al regreso de la pausa, le voy a presentar.
When we're back, I'm going to present our guest for today, and with which we will be debating this topic.
Lawfare o judicialización de la política, ¿de qué va y cómo se ha puesto?
How does this work in Latin America? Lawfare has been widely used by the right to oust progressive presidents during the past years, with the only purpose is to make them seem as corrupt. The Lava Jato operation was used to throw some doubts of Dilma Rousseff and to incarcerate Lula. The Workers' Union has said in the European Parliament that there was U.S. participation along with the right-wing groups of Brazil. It is said that the Lava Jato operation is totally illegal because it was done without the prosecutor's office work. The role of the White House that was showed by WikiLeaks images. One of the main countries that was surprised was Ecuador, where the Odebrecht case was used to go against the vice president of Rafael Correa. In Argentina, there is a very evil warfare that was used against Cristina Fernandez. However, there was an agreement saying that she was totally fine. After this, the former First Lady and President ran for president once again.
y de cómo ha influido el lawfare.
and
En
of
el caso
how
Lula,
lawfare
voy a
has
dialogar a continuación
has
con
had
Axel
some
Peña,
influence
líder de la
in the
Brigada de
case of
Solidaridad Apolonio Di Cavallo, del MST en Venezuela,
in
dirigente
Brazil.
de coordinación nacional del MST de Brasil. ¿Cómo está?
How are you? Good
Muchas gracias
afternoon.
por haber asistido a
Thank you for
nuestro
assisting our
estudio, Axel.
program.
En primer lugar, su primera reflexión tras la liberación de Lula. A partir de allí, vamos
First of
entonces
all,
a ir
let's speak
dirigiendo
about the
nuestra
liberation
entrevista.
of Lula.
Bueno,
Well,
fue una batalla
It
que
was a
duró
battle that
casi 2
lasted
años.
almost 2 years.
Nosotros logramos sacar Lula del cárcel
We were able to free Lula
por un
from
conjunto
jail
de factores.
due to
A eso se
a
refería
mixture
justamente
of
una de nuestras
elements.
invitadas. Hay un conjunto de factores que vale la pena recapitular.
Sí. El gobierno que está en Brasil
Well, the
ahorita no
government
está
that is in
logrando
Brazil right now
resolver los problemas de la gente.
are
El
able
gobierno
to
de
solve
Bolsonaro.
the problems of the people. This is the
Y es un gobierno que
Bolsonaro
tiene un
government.
lenguaje muy dura con la sociedad.
And this government has a very harsh vocabulary, a way of
Que
expressing
refleja la
itself with the
sociedad
people.
como
They want to
15,
reflect
20% de la población
They
que
want to
lo
reflect
sigue,
their
que,
message onto
como que
15 and
lo-
20%
que
of the
quer que
population.
la vía sea ahí. Pero cómo se llegó a Bolsonaro, que ahí viene la
However,
esa
what-
de la judicialización de
What
la-
we want to know is
judicialización de la
how
política.
Bolsonaro is here in our
Eh,
political realm,
El sistema capitalista está en una
the
crisis muy
capitalist system,
profunda.
which is in a
El
profound,
siglo XX
in a
se
profound
resolvía
low.
las crisis con las guerras.
So before we solved
al final de las guerras,
the
sea quien
crises with
pierde,
war,
sea quien gana, o gane quien gana la guerra,
be
al
who it
final
may, that
sale
was the
victorioso.
winner.
Porque
There
en
were
el proceso de
destroyed people
reconstrucción
because in the
de la
process
guerra,
of reconstructing,
el sistema capitalista se recompone,
Exacto, se realimentaba.
se realimentaba. Ahorita ya las guerras no son
right
no
now the
tienen la misma
wars
eficiencia,
don't have the
Lo que
same
no quiere decir
efficiency.
que no hay guerra.
que no hay guerra.
Which doesn't mean
No hay
that
guerra en el
nowadays
sistema
there's no war.
convencional
No,
que
there
nosotros
is.
estamos,
Well, maybe not in a
acostumbrados
conventional
a ver.
system that we're used
Entonces,
to.
ahorita la guerra
But now the
sigue otros
war
caminos.
is following other
Entre-
steps,
entre estes-
other
otras
paths.
formas. Entre estas formas
Among
está la
these
judicialización.
is the lawfare.
Pero la
O sea, que es el
judicialización
uso del sistema judicial
So it's
con
making
fines
use of the
políticos.
judicial
políticos.
body
Sobre todo
for
para
political
desbancar
uses.
a las fuerzas
Overall,
progresistas, a la izquierda.
porque ellos necesitan tumbar los gobiernos para implementar un programa
Because
para
what they wanted
salir-
is to implement
para
a
que el sistema
program
salga de la crisis que está
so the
y
system
siga
will
teniendo
stop
más
being
capitalismo.
crisis.
Entonces, uno de los caminos es la judicialización, pero paralelo con la judicialización también ven toda la mediática, ven las redes sociales. ven
So
un
what
conjunto
there is a
de
lot of
cosas,
other outlets through which
estaba,
people were able
tenemos
to get
estudiado un
more
poco
information.
sobre la-
We have
la
not studied
guerra híbrida.
enough about the
Exacto. El tema
hybrid
guerra híbrida.
war.
Por ahí se puede ver cómo que la derecha internacional, el sistema
So what we see
capitalista
is that
internacional, el
the
imperialismo norteamericano, va llegando
left-wing
a las
parties,
famílias, a las comunidades. Quando tu menos espera, dentro de tu família, encontra alguém que tem esta aptidão ao extremismo, à la violência. E de aí vem contaminando
and
todo
then
o
after
ambiente
it
familiar,
contaminates
el ambiente
all of the
comunitário, el ambiente
all of the
de lo básico,
environment.
O sea, que el
de las-
sentimiento hacia la violencia es algo que poco a poco se va inoculando.
se vai inoculando através del
So yes, this is being spread
de sistema de
through a system
enraizamento de informação ou
of
desinformação pela
information
sociedade.
and deformation.
E então, de um lado, tu tem
So on
aparato
one
judicial
side, you have a
preparado
judicial system
para,
that is
para
prepared
perseguir, não?
to
Exacto.
Pero
prosecute.
do outro lado,
And
também
on
tu
the
vai
other hand,
armando a
you see
sociedade
that there's a society
para que apoie, para que tenha
that
uma
is
sociedade,
expecting
uma base,
a support.
De respaldo a esta judicialização.
So there is
A la
no
hora de
support.
ejercer un voto,
Claro.
por ejemplo, en las urnas.
E voto, ou quando não se pode com o voto, por exemplo, encarcerar Lula.
And
sacar
for example, to get Lula,
Nosotros ganaria a eleição.
Ajá, el
Mesmo
voto.
com todo este, pero como justifica então?
How do you justify
encarcera Lula
with all of
de
this?
certa maneira a sociedade se põe como neutralizada.
And in a way,
Em
people
dúvida,
are neutral.
neutralizada por conjunto de outras informações que ele vai chegando. Então, por isso é tão importante, volvendo a Lula,
So,
a liberação de Lula.
This is
Ajá, ¿y
why
cómo
Lula's
funcionó
liberation
todo
was
esto,
so
ya que estamos
important.
volviendo a Lula? Eso que usted muy bien acaba de describir.
What, could you
¿cómo
please
funcionó
tell
o
us
cómo ha
how it
funcionado
worked?
en el caso Lula, antes de ser liberado?
after he was
Lula,
liberated.
Desde su
Well,
juventud como
ever
militante
since
siempre fue
Lula was
atacado,
young,
¿no?
he
Desde
was
la década de
attacked.
70, cuando empezó
Ever since
su carrera
1960,
política, ele sempre foi atacado por la derecha.
he was
Pero
always
después que ele se
attacked
tornó
by the
gobierno,
right wing,
desde
by
2003, ele
by
não
the
tuvo
left wing.
dia de descanso.
But
La
after
derecha
he was
tentou
elected,
todo
he
el
was not
tiempo,
one
pero
day
como ele
at
estava em
rest.
poder, tinha apoio grande e ele se comunicava todos os dias com a sociedade.
And he
Entonces,
used to
ele
have
ia
communication every
desmontando
day
através de sua prática de
with the
governo,
civil
através de
society.
suas ações políticas, del ganho que a sociedade tinha, el crecimiento
And the growth, the
económico,
economic
el
growth,
avanço de los más pobres,
the advance
la
of the poor people.
diminuição de la desigualdad. Entonces, por aí ele ia logrando a combater.
So by
El
then we
momento
can
que ele
forget,
sale del gobierno, assume Dilma.
at the moment
Dilma
that
não tiene
he
la
leaves
mesma-
government,
la
Dilma,
mesma, condição de interlocução com a gente.
Dilma
É
doesn't have the
tremendo
same
governo,
level
Dilma hace un gobierno
of
muy bueno.
communication.
Muy seguidora de las ideas de
Sí,
Lula.
muy seguidora. Pero como persona, ela não tem a mesma comunicação.
But
Não
as
sei
a
se me
person, he
entende,
doesn't have good
com
communication.
as massas. Então, já Lula não tem todo o tempo.
So now Lula doesn't
el
have
contato
all
con la
his
gente,
time,
todo el tiempo como tenía antes
all
como
the
presidente.
contact he had,
Eso
well, all the
Considero
time he
que
had
ese
with
fue un factor
Fabián
importante
Rivadeneira
en el, digamos,
pushing it.
declive
So this would
de
be
la
a very,
popularidad,
this would be a
un declive
decline in the
inducido, como
popularity
bien
that was
explicaba
induced,
usted,
as you well
por los
explained,
medios de
that was pushed by the
comunicación,
news
lanzando
media,
campañas,
throwing
falsas
campaigns that
contra
were
el
false
PT, el Partido de los Trabajadores,
against the
el gobierno del
Workers'
PT.
Party.
Ese periodo de gobierno de Dilma
That period of Dilma's
Se puede decir que
power.
houve esta pequena falha. Durante el gobierno Lula,
Well, before the
no se
Lula
logró,
government,
el PT, la izquierda
it was
brasileña,
not
no se logró
possible
construir mecanismos
to
más allá de
construct
Lula, de interacción
mechanisms
con la gente.
beyond Lula
Eu sempre
to have interaction with the
exemplifico a
people.
Venezuela. Acá em Venezuela, há muitos instrumentos de conexão com a gente que fazem com que
Here in
as
Venezuela,
ideias,
there are
por
many
mais que tenham as
ways
ideias
to
que
connect
vienen para
ideas.
tentar contaminar a sociedade venezuelana, pero há muitos instrumentos, seja de
And there are
de
many
militantes
other
que estão em
instruments,
base,
be this from
construindo, seja por
people
las políticas
of
sociais,
the party,
ou
or
seja
for
por
the
os meios
social
de
policies,
comunicação,
or
as redes
the
sociais,
mass
que
media, the
hacen llegar
network
informação e
that
contra-informação a la gente.
deliver
y el pueblo se
information.
siente representado en el propio gobierno.
And the
cuando se habla
people
de
feel
poder popular.
represented in the
Sí,
people,
también.
in the
Son
governments.
muchos
Yes.
mecanismos que
The
nosotros
mechanisms are varied.
Entonces eso, cuando Lula sale
And all of this, when Lula
de la escena política, digamos, que asume otro gobierno, que es el gobierno Dilma, como nosotros no tenemos estes instrumentos de conexión
How don't
con la
we
gente,
have these
nosotros vamos perdendo
contact
contacto
with these
con la
people?
gente. Y quem
Y
va
ese terreno
asumiendo,
lo aprovecha la derecha.
claro, la derecha va a aprovechar este espacio,
And of course,
esta lacuna, este vacío.
The right
Y
wing will take
entra a
advantage
través de
of
las
this void, and
iglesias pentecostales,
they will
de,
lead the way
extremadamente
through the
conservadoras,
Pentecostal
los evangélicos, pero
churches,
no todos
the
los
evangelicals.
un sector de los evangélicos,
well, just
no
a sector
generalizamos y
of the
no es así.
evangelicals.
Exactamente.
El narcotráfico, no caso de Rio de Janeiro, donde viene Bolsonaro, las milicias, que aquí ustedes llaman de
And what we have
paramilitares,
here is the
allá nosotros
militias.
llamamos de milícias, aquí
This is what we have
milícia é
in-
una
in
cosa
Brazil.
allá
Sentido,
tem
exacto.
outro sentido. Incluso isso que falava a companheira que
And
comentava
even
antes
we had
que há
the person who was
suspeita de que
speaking
Bolsonaro
of
está involucrado
before me.
ou seus hijos,
They say
ou
that
el grupo
they're
muito
suspecting
cercano
that
de Bolsonaro
Lula
está
and his
involucrado na
sons
morte
and the
de
person
Maria Franco.
very
la
close to him
concejal Maria
are
Franco.
involved in
Entonces,
an association.
el espaço que devia ser
So the
ocupado por
space
la
that
izquierda em los
should have been
barrios, em la
occupied by
população
the
mais pobre,
left wing in the
principalmente nos
neighborhoods and
grandes
the
centros urbanos,
and the
vai
most
ser
poorest
ocupado
parts will now
por
be
estes
occupied by
mecanismos.
these
De um lado,
mechanisms. On one hand,
uma mentira todo dia chegando à gente através de
What
las
they're
redes
doing is
sociais e tal, que pouco a pouco a esquerda também não vai se dando conta disso.
they're
que vai
trying to take
contaminando
over.
toda a sua base social, sua base eleitoral. E de outro lado, esta gente ocupando os espaços.
And
de
on the other
poder
hand, you see that
em
these
la
people
sociedade.
are taking over the
E
political
isso vai
power
levar à eleição
places.
de Bolsonaro mais adiante.
And of course,
Sin
this will
embargo,
lead
hemos
Bolsonaro
notado
to
en el
become
momento
president
de la
further on.
liberación de Lula,
However, what
en la
we've
propia
seen
comitiva,
at the moment of the
que hay
liberation
como un
is that there is a
despertar,
sort of
¿no?
waking
de las
up.
fuerzas más que progresistas de izquierda, lo decía
we can say that
Brano,
more
el
than
discurso de
progressive
Lula ya no es
forces,
solo progresista,
the left
es un
wing,
discurso más a la izquierda,
the
digamos que se
left
ha
wing
comprometido más, se ha
positions
radicalizado
that have
más
become a bit more
hacia las
radicalized
causas verdaderamente populares.
towards
Y el
the
pueblo que estaba alrededor suyo
box. And the people who were around him, they saw him as the hope of Brazil. I think there are several lessons that the left.
que Lula é mais grande que a esquerda.
Lula es más grande que la
Mais
izquierda.
grande que a esquerda.
¿Por
Mais
qué?
grande que o PT e mais grande que a esquerda. Porque Lula tem uma.
I think Lula is even bigger because Lula is a product of the society of Lula. He's not part of a political party.
Es la representación del pueblo brasileño.
Well, I think that he is the representation of the Bolivian outfits.
Lo deixam ser candidato, não perde. Independente de que PT esteja bem ou não esteja bem, ou que a esquerda não esteja bem.
O sea que Lula no necesita
So
partido.
Lula doesn't need a party.
Personalmente não, para ter votos.
Well, he
representarse,
personally
para
doesn't.
una elección.
Então, a gente se vê em ele. Quando ele habla,
So when
la
people
gente lo
speaks,
escucha, porque
when
confía
Lula
en él.
speaks, people listen
se
because
ve
they
en él.
trust him.
¿Y por qué la gente
And
confía
why
tanto en
do
Lula?
people
Porque
trust
Lula
Lula?
vem de aí.
Because Lula
é
comes from there.
Brasileño, uma pessoa que vem de los rincones mais pobres del país.
Lula comes from the poorest corners of the country,
Sobreviver é uma suerte.
where surviving is luck.
Pero ha habido, digamos, dirigentes políticos que también han procedido de senos humildes.
Well, there
¿no?
have been
En
many
cambio,
leaders who
no
began
logran, en el futuro ese
from poor
carisma que ha
parts.
logrado Lula.
Sim, pero aí é uma questão também personal, é uma questão de la maneira com que é Lula, não é um fenômeno.
Well,
né?
there is a
Algo
phenomenon
como
that's
Chávez
called
acá em
Lula. It's
Venezuela.
like
Puede
Chavez
ser
here in
también
Venezuela.
de su
Militares
discurso, ¿no?
aqui e tal, pero porque era Chávez, não? Porque que vem, digamos, de la carreira militar. Tem tantos militares aqui buenos, tremendos, de esquerda, comprometidos e Chávez é o que desponta. Então, há coisas que
There are things that
de la sensibilidade humana, de la
of
psicologia
the
de las
human
massas,
sensibility
más allá
that you must understand
de la
in human
voluntad
groups that go
personal.
beyond the
Le voy a
will
hacer
of a
una
single
pregunta que le
person.
hacía uno de
I'm
los
going to make
invitados. ¿Considera
a
entonces
question.
que el futuro
So,
próximo de Brasil
do you think that
sea
the
el
upcoming
regreso de Lula a la
future of Brazil
presidencia?
is
Eso está,
Lula back in the
digamos
presidency?
que,
Is that already?
más que obvio,
Do you think that's obvious?
tendría Lula
Or
que atravesar
will
todavía
Lula
por
have to go
algún
through
obstáculo,
some
muy
obstacles,
grande
like
para
big
que
ones,
no llegue nuevamente al plan alto?
so he cannot reach the presidency?
Lula vai ser reflexo,
Look,
ele llegar
Le-
ao governo, não
Lula
é reflexo da luta de classe.
Is a
Em termos
reflex
jurídicos,
of the
podemos debater,
social
não, porque
fights,
as possibilidades-
social
Nós
struggles.
vamos mirar ahorita as possibilidades
If we
jurídicas de
see
Lula,
the
casi
judicial,
nula, de
the
que llegue a ser
judicial
candidato.
possibilities of
Claro,
Lula,
no,
they're
porque
almost
tiene-
zero.
Tem já mais uma condena.
He's
tem mais
been
5 ou
condemned.
7 processos
He has
por
5 or
aí
6
a-
more processes
correndo.
underway.
Por aí tu poderia dizer, mira,
Well,
Lula
you could
não,
say
não tem
that
mais nenhuma possibilidade.
There is no
Como
possibility.
por aspecto jurídico pensávamos que não salia tão pronto del
Well,
cárcel.
we
E
thought
como a
that
correlação
according
de
to
forças quando
judicial
cambia,
aspects,
como o
that he was
governo
not going to
pode
be
dar
freed
resposta
so,
à sociedade.
so soon.
Então, a correlação de força vai cambiando.
So now that
E
the
o
correlation
Tribunal
of
Superior
forces is
Federal
different.
se vê obrigado a,
Now we see that the
a criar
federal
mecanismos para
court
que Lula pueda
is
salir. Porque já há
obligated
pressão social,
to create
lá
mechanisms so he
já
can
empieza a
leave.
perceber que há uma trampa, que há toda montagem.
He thinks
las
this is a
denúncias de
montage.
Intercept, que foram
He
importantes.
thinks
A
of
própria mídia de
intercepting.
direita já não pode
Sostener.
acaparar isso, esconder, acaparar. Então, há muitas tarefas que a esquerda em Brasil.
So there are a lot of
e a esquerda,
things that
tem
the
que
left
hacer
wing in Brazil
ahorita,
have to do now,
de agora para adelante.
from
Una
here
é
on,
aproveitar este capital
and to take
de Lula,
advantage
de
of
interação
this
com as massas para
capital
volver a
of Lula
convocar
that
as
has
massas,
a great
pero não
contact with
pode parar-se aí,
with the mass,
solamente em
with the
convocar as
masses.
massas,
But he
as
cannot
massas.
just
Hay que hacer
stand there
trabalho
and
de
call them.
organização
He
de las
has to
massas.
make a work
Hay que hacer
of
trabalho de
organizing
formação
all of these
política,
masses
trabalho de
and
base que
political
transforme isso
formation
em
that
uma
will
estrutura
transform this into a
política que vá
structure
desde abaixo a
that
arriba,
starts
de
from the
arriba a abaixo.
bottom to the top.
Que tenha reconectar a esquerda mais allá de Lula. Porque se
This
Lula não
goes
pode ser
far
candidato
beyond Lula
e venga outro
because
candidato em lugar de Lula, a esquerda tem que ganhar.
the right
Independente
wing
de ser Lula ou não ser Lula, pero para ganhar a esquerda, independentemente de ser Lula, há que ir a
they
uma
have to go
construção de base
to
real,
a construction
de
of
poder
bases
real, para a
of
disputa
real power.
del poder mais amplo da sociedade.
Edson, muchísimas gracias.
Thank you
por
very
estas
much,
explicaciones
Edson,
para la audiencia
for
de
these
Telesur.
explanations
Obrigado.
of Telesur.
Vamos a sentar
Let's
las
go
conclusiones.
to our conclusions.
Pese al abanico de
Regardless
posibilidades
of the
que se
myriad
abre
of
tras la
possibilities
liberación
that
de
are
Lula,
opened
el
after the
proceso judicial
liberation
amañado
of
que ha sido
Lula,
sometido, hay una gran certeza.
there is a
El
great
reclamo
certainty.
popular
The popular
hizo que el líder
demands
del PT
made that
no
the
pasara
leader
ni un
of the
día más en
PT
prisión.
not spend a
Y
single
el
day
líder
more
salió
in
de su
prison.
encierro
The leader
arbitrario más fortalecido,
left the
más
prison
comprometido
that
con su gente
even
y
more strong
diseñando
and
un
more
discurso que alienta
with
a
a
las fuerzas
stronger
progresistas a seguir
compromise.
sus pasos por un mejor Brasil. Por hoy cerramos el
For
tablero
now,
geopolítico.
this is all.
Hasta la próxima.
See you tomorrow.